Hello, my name is Jim Peterson. I'm a United States District Judge. I work closely with probation officers through all phases of a criminal prosecution. You're probably familiar with the work of probation officers after a person has served a sentence of incarceration or while they're on probation. But probation officers are important to every phase of a criminal prosecution. I couldn't do my job in a criminal case without the research, the investigation, and the advice of probation officers. And I look forward to sharing with you some of the other aspects of this interesting work in the rest of this video.
The District of Minnesota and the Western District of Wisconsin U.S. Probation and Pretrial Services carries out probation and pretrial services for the federal courts within the District of Minnesota and the District of Western Wisconsin. U.S. probation officers investigate and supervise persons charged with or convicted of federal crimes. These officers serve as the eyes and ears of the federal courts to faithfully serve the judges and uniquely position them to promote community protection while committed to impartial administration of justice through all phases of the system. U.S. probation officers are committed to proactive rehabilitation efforts, community partnerships, and strengthening support systems, and are devoted to putting people in positions to succeed.
My name is Mariah Stevie, and I'm a U.S. Probation and Pretrial Services Officer. You know, most people think once you're released from prison or placed on probation, that's when you deal with the probation office, but realistically, we're in the picture right away.
My name is Christina Gebhardt, and I'm a United States Probation Officer, and I work in the Pretrial Service Unit. Most of the clients, if they've had experience working with law enforcement in the past, it may not have been the most positive interaction. And I think when they come into our office, or even if we're in custody, and they right away see that we're there to support them, that we're neutral third parties, and that we just want to make sure that we're getting as much accurate information to them and from them for the court appearance to go smoothly and to get them to the next chapter of their life, whether that be out of custody, pending disposition, or in custody, awaiting sentencing.
I think it's a really crucial point, too, because it's a stressful time in their life. They're either awaiting trial or, waiting however their case is going to conclude. They have an open case kind of hanging above their head, and so we're here, to support them and make sure that they're getting through that time period in their life, however their case concludes.
I'm Katie Sorla, and I'm a U.S. Probation Officer who works in the Pre-Sentence Unit for the Western District of Wisconsin. Pre-Sentence Unit plays an integral role in the federal sentencing process. Our unit enters the system once a defendant is convicted of a federal crime, and that can happen in one of two ways. Either they plead guilty to an offense or they're found guilty by trial. Once a defendant is convicted, we are charged with preparing a very comprehensive investigation into that defendant's background. We start with a detailed interview where we learn all about their life, their upbringing. We talk about their mental health, physical health, employment history, education history, their family ties, and that really gives us an understanding of what needs that they may have.
The pre-sentence investigation report is very important for the judges because they rely on the information within that report to better inform their sentencing decision, to better understand who the defendant is and how they got to the position they're in. So the primary audience of that report is the court.
Through that sentencing process, we work very closely with the judges. We often have to answer questions about our pre-sentence reports, and we are charged with ensuring that each defendant's risk levels and needs are addressed and identified so that the court can determine an appropriate sentence for that defendant.
It's a report that assists other agencies, including the U.S. Attorney's Office, the federal defenders, the defendant, and the Bureau of Prisons that uses it for designation purposes. Then once a defendant releases from incarceration for supervision purposes with our office, the supervision officers use it as well.
My name is Jelani Brown, and I'm a U.S. Probation Officer in the Western District of Wisconsin. As a post-conviction supervision unit officer, you primarily tasked with meeting with individuals who are released from prison recently. You meet with them before they are released and after they are released, and you essentially are walking with them and kind of their assistant during their transition from prison into society.
I'm Odell Wilson III. I'm a supervisor with the United States Federal Probation and Pretrial Service Officer. We're required to meet with them within 72 hours, sit down and review the conditions of their supervision. We kind of have an assessment of what their needs are. Some of the things that we want to talk about is if there are issues or concerns or things that they may need, and we try to help them with those things. It's generally housing, employment, transportation. Some people have some help if there are health issues or concerns.
Where they want to be or where they want to see themselves in 6 months, 5 years. And then we kind of work from there, and then it's just a collaborative process.
We kind of identify, what they can expect from us as people who are going to be supervising them. And then we also talk about, what we are expecting of them as people who are on supervision.
And then once that's obtained, the goal for the probation officer is to try and get them off of probation early before their term is actually finished. One of the things that the community gets the most wrong is that they think that this profession is punitive, that we're there to punish the individual and that we're there to just watch over that individual in the community, which is not true. Our goal is to have a collaborative effort to help the individual reintegrate into society and to become a functioning member of society and never go back to prison again.
The possibilities are truly endless. And you can move up, promote to, specialist or supervisor, but there's so much opportunity laterally too. You can start out in pre-sentence and then move to post-conviction supervision if you want. You can do temporary duty assignments in other districts, and you can be part of the firearms program or the safety program. I could sit here and talk forever about the opportunities that are available, but it's really how you want your career to go and what experiences you want, because they really are out there.
We have an academy that is usually about 6 weeks long in Charleston, South Carolina, and that training goes from everything to interviewing skills to skills for safety and protecting yourself as an officer in the field. And it's intensive training that every single officer goes through. Looking for a position with our agency, you've got to have a sense of community because that's technically who you're protecting. The judge answers to the community, we answer to the community, or we answer to the judge, so all of that goes hand in hand.
I may meet somebody who says, do I have to have a law enforcement background? And I say, well, I don't have a law enforcement background. My degrees are in rehabilitation education and counselor education. There are many people who work in our office who don't have a law enforcement background. What I find that's the common denominator are the people who care about people who want to help people who are in situations where they're not able sometimes to help themselves.
Our officers are almost as diverse as the people that we serve. We have officers who used to be in law enforcement. We have officers who were previously social workers. We have officers who have law degrees and were attorneys. We have officers who are educators. I used to be a teacher before I did this. And we have officers who used to be psychologists. To have this job, you need to be a compassionate person, and you also need to have the belief that people can actually change and we can be those agents of change in their life.
Make a positive difference in people's lives. Visit our URL to find out more on how you can make an impact as a federal probation officer with the District of Western Wisconsin. U.S. Probation Officers. See the possibilities and inspire change.